Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here. I'm returning to you tonight for this next album review for Big Sean, Better Me Than You. And I believe this is the last interesting album one of the last interesting albums. I think I'm probably going to pass on the Zed album review because it's more house music, like EDM stuff, that I'm not sure if I really want to listen to be honest. So I'm going to discuss what I listened to for Big Sean's Better Me Than You and let you know my thoughts on his new album overall, the follow-up to Detroit 2, I believe is what it was. So let's dive into this 21-track album, which is a 66-minute record. So Pressure intro was actually, well, I didn't hate this track. It was pretty good in its own way, so I'd give it a 4.75 out of 5 for this one. The intro track was interesting. So it's only like 53 seconds of a song. But then it leads into the next track, which is track number 2, Iconic, which is not a good song, if I'm being honest. It doesn't sound good. It sounds repetitious where he says the same lyric a couple times that I'm not feeling for, and it's ear grating to the point where I can't really get on board with this track. So it's like this track is such a cringy, a cringy mess, basically. So 2.75 out of 5 for Iconic. Not a great song. It's a letdown. Typecast was average. This one wasn't terrible at all. So I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5. I don't know. This track just didn't please me too much. It tried, but it was just fairly average. Just Big Sean's rapping in it is alright, and just the way he's singing it some of the time with rapping, and it's just iffy. Break the Cycle featuring Charlie Wilson is an okay track. I didn't really hate this track for how it sounded, but it's just fairly okay. There's some cringe moments through this track too that I'm not really feeling for. Big Sean's rapping is a little slow paced with this one. And Charlie Wilson, I mean, he's just following along with the track, and he does sound good vocally. But it depends on the lyrics. It depends on the lyrics too, excuse my yawning. Because they do play it safe a little too much. So 3.25 out of 5. Who You Are Superstar, I believe he made a music video for this track. Not a fantastic track, if I'm being honest, but it's okay. So I'd give it a 3.25 out of 5. At least it's short and effective. But execution-wise, I don't know if I really feel for this one. It's got a lot of negatives more than positives, but it stays in the middle to make it an okay track to listen through. So 3.25 out of 5. Yes is one of the worst tracks on the record. I couldn't stand this track when he kept saying yes, 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 repeatedly, probably more than 10 times. Come to think of it, when I listened to it, I was counting how many times he says yes, and I'm like, that's over 10 times. So, this track was bad. Like, so bad. It can literally go fuck itself. For sure. So, fuck this track. 2 out of 5. It Is What It Is an okay track. Not really connecting with it too much, but Gunna sounds okay with his rapping. It's mumble rapping, but it depends. It depends on the listener if they like it or not. And sorry about my yawning. But execution-wise, it's okay, so 3.25 out of 5. Big Sean's rapping in it is fairly average. Apologize featuring Aaron Allen Kane is a meh kind of track. I'm not really on board with this too much, but I think Big Sean's rapping is kind of a little bit of a snooze fest through this one. and some of his singing is fairly okay. So this is going to be a 3 out of 5. Clarity skit, it's only an interlude track going into the On Up track. I think it's pretty good to lead into that song, so I'd give it a 4.75 out of 5. Then comes On Up, which was probably the best track on the record, best regular song on the record, one of them at least. But execution-wise, there's some moments I like it, and some moments where I think the rapping is pretty strong. I think with this track, it's pretty strong because he's mainly dedicating this track to his baby son, his newborn son, basically, that's like 9 months old or something. So pretty much he's dedicating this song to his son, pretty much, and that's pretty nice. And this track does have a lot of meaningful lyricism that I can get on board with. So at least the lyrics play it in a good way and make it a strong track. So 4.75 out of 5. Something featuring Sid is above decent. Not really amazing, but it's fine for what it is. So 4.25 out of 5. Then you get Black Void featuring Thundercat and Aaron Allen. Kane again. This track is average at best. I mean, the rapping in it is okay, but it's just the execution of this track I don't know if I feel for. Some of these tracks feel like a slow bore. It just feels a little dull with some of these tracks. But execution-wise, they're fine. So, Black Void's getting a 3.5 out of 5. This and That, featuring Bryson Tiller and Kodak Black, is mediocre of a song. I think Kodak Black's rapping was the weakest part of the track, but Bryson Tiller did sound pretty good in this track for how he was rapping and singing. He almost sounded like Chris Brown in a way, and that kind of made me cringe a bit to an extent, but I think in his own way he actually did good vocally with his rapping and some of his singing, so I'd give this a 3.75 out of 5. Million Pieces featuring Teyana Taylor, Larry June, and DJ Premier is another mediocre track that I can kind of get on board with to an extent, but I wouldn't say I love it that much. So I think this is getting a 3.75 out of 5. Big Sean's rapping is fairly alright for this track, and kind of takes over a majority of the track, but execution-wise, it's alright. Get You Back, actually featuring Cash Cobain, is an average song. I'm just not really feeling for the lyrics too much. They kind of are a little too sexualized and not in a good way. The lyrics throw me off a little bit, but execution-wise, this track did have a good beat. So I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5. It's average at best. Certified featuring Nassan is a mediocre track too. I think this track played it safe a little bit. So this is a 3.75 out of 5. Nassan's rapping in it is alright for what it is. Focus Skit is another interlude track that I can get on board with a little bit going into the next track, Boundaries, which I will be talking about in a second. He's just basically talking about he's got to focus on rapping this new track, and he's kind of getting serious towards the end of the record with his lyricism, which gets a lot better to an extent, but except for the final track, which we will talk about the final song in a moment, in just a few minutes. So pretty much 4.75 out of 5 for Focus. Boundaries is a decent song. I think it seemed a little slow with how Big Sean was rapping it, and some of the bars he was spitting, I don't know if I was really connecting with it too much. But execution-wise, it's fine. So 4 out of 5. Precision actually was a good track. I really dug this track. I think his rapping was pretty good to an extent. So I'd give this a 4.5 out of 5. And My Life Happiness skit featuring Ellie Goulding, I think is a good track too. I was impressed with the closing track, which includes one more track as a bonus song, which was a single and did become a music video. They did make a music video for that track, which I'll talk about in just a second. So, Together Forever is the next song, but 4.5 out of 5 for My Life Happiness. It's the outro to the record, but there's a bonus track, which is Together Forever, featuring The Alchemist. So, this one was meh. It was just mid. It wasn't terrible, it's just not one of my favorite tracks to close the record. And when I listened to it, I was fairly underwhelmed with this track. And just how it was sounding execution-wise. I don't know if I was connecting with it too much. Big Sean took over most of the track, and he didn't sound good rapping in it too much. I mean, it was kind of mid, but execution-wise, it played it safe to an extent, so 3 out of 5. Overall, production, mixing, and execution-wise, I found myself really sadly disappointed with this Big Sean record. And the reason why I'm going to give it like a slightly low score is because Yes was a bad track, Iconic was a bad track, some of the other tracks got 3 out of 5s, and maybe 2 songs got 3 out of 5s, and some were like okay, average, mediocre, decent, above decent, good, or possibly pretty good in its own way. So the scores vary with this record, but I think with what I listened to for all 21 tracks, I'm not that impressed with this record. I'm kind of disappointed. And I really like Big Sean as a rapper, but this is not a good follow-up to Detroit 2. It took him 4 years to make this record, and it didn't turn out that great. And for the 4 years he took his time with, which I understand that some songs on here, he was talking about how he became a father 9 months ago, and with Gene Aoki, with Gene Aiko, I believe is her name, Jen Aiko, if I'm pronouncing it right. So I think with this record, I think it had some strong tracks, a couple strong tracks at least, but execution-wise, this record was kind of a mess. It was a disappointing mess, so if I were to give this a score, I'm going to give it a 5.5 out of 10. It's sadly a letdown, and I really like Big Sean as a rapper, but this follow-up, I hope he can make another record that's a lot better in the next 2-3 years, because with this follow-up, it's not a good follow-up to Detroit 2. So Detroit 2 did have some good bangers from time to time, but it just depends. That record did have its issues, but I mean, to an extent, I think his last good record was I Decided. And after that, Big Sean's kind of fallen off for me, personally. So, pretty much 5.5 out of 10 for Big Sean, Better Me Than You. I'm sadly disappointed with this record. I hope you guys enjoyed my take. Keep in mind, this is just my opinion at the end of the day on this album. If you didn't like what I said in this review, you're more than happy to comment and let me know what you think of it, because everyone has their own opinions. You just gotta respect it. Like, I'll respect yours if you respect mine. At the end of the day, that's all it comes down to, respecting one's opinion. And that's what I try to encourage my audience to do that watches my channel. Respect one's opinion, even if they don't like it. You gotta respect it. And I'll just say that's fine. Like, you're entitled to your own opinion. But there's an old saying, opinions are like assholes, everyone's got one. So, pretty much 5.5 out of 10 for Big Sean, Better Me Than You. I'm sadly disappointed with this record. And with that being said, thanks for watching this album review tonight.